Welcome to Contractor Cuts, where we cover the good, the bad, and the ugly of growing a successful contracting company.
Welcome back to Contractor Cuts. My name is Clark Turner.
I'm Jared Flo.
Thank you for joining us again this week. So today we are talking about the thing that people don't want us to talk about, why they shouldn't and when they should start a side business, expand their company. The title of today's episode is Expanding Your Business, When I Should Say Yes to Those New Opportunities.
Yep.
This is a tough one. This is a tough one. We have said yes. I have said yes, and you've said no, and I've said tough luck, and then you've said told you so a lot, right? And so as a serial entrepreneur, as a lot of people starting companies are, when should I say yes? It's okay to expand. It's okay to go to a new city. It's okay to add new construction. It's okay to add commercial in now. It's okay to start a service business. It's okay to start my HVAC. It's okay to start the dumpster. How do I know I should say yes to that? Or how do I say, no, not yet? That's a next year progress. If I get to X, Y, and Z, I can do that next year. Right. That's what we're talking about today. If you don't want to hear it, you can go ahead and turn it off now.
But if you're turning it off, you should probably leave it
probably
on.
Listen. Yeah, for sure. So that being said, we're going to dive into our mistakes. We're going to start this off with talking about our experience and mistakes in doing this. Mm-hmm. And then when we did do it the right way and wrong way,
it's kind of, if we were to do it all over again, we would set it up this way this time.
Exactly. So looking at the ProStruct purpose, why we do what we do. ProStruct 360 is our overarching company. It is our software, but also the alliance part of it is our coaching and how we connect it all. And why it's called 360 is we've got this software that's been built over many years that takes our process, and we turned our process of successfully running a construction company and put it into a program, a software program, to where you can execute your jobs. Now, you can just run with that, or you can also upgrade and be part of our alliance program, where we're also doing coaching and giving you the surrounding, the body, not just the skeleton, of how to run it well. And we're not gurus. We don't know more than the next guy. What we do have that you probably don't, and why we can help you, is we've done it the wrong way a ton of times. And we're going to talk about that today. Is these are the ways we've done it wrong, and we've learned. So instead of you going to making a $200,000 mistake by doing it the wrong way, let us show you what we did wrong and why we chose to do it a different way, and what that way looks like. So then you can learn from our mistakes instead of making them yourself. It's not magic, but we are going to fast forward your growth 5, 6, 7, 8 years to where instead of learning and scratching and your knee and hurting yourself over the next 5 years, we're going to expedite that. And in the next 18 months, you're going to learn exactly what you need to be doing and fast forward 8 years into 18 months.
Well, and the basis where we start of that is we've got to get your company, the way that it functions, the way that it operates. If we are going to grow off of that, we want to get it set on solid ground. We want to move it from sand, where if we build stuff on top of it, it's going to fall apart. And we're going to build it onto a solid foundation of some key factors that we go through in the very beginning, so that we can grow this into a bigger company. If you don't have those key factors in place, then this next part, the podcast that we're about to get into of when to say yes, the answer is no. Yeah. Right? You've got to have that solid foundation set up and ready to go. Yeah. So that's what the ProStruct system does. We've got the skeleton of the software that gives you the systems and organization, and then we've got the coaching, the ProStruct Alliance side of it that gives you kind of the overarching learn off of our mistakes. We were dumb. We made a lot of dumb mistakes, and we're giving you the cheat sheet, right? Of don't step there, jump over this, right?
And today, when we're looking at expansion and saying yes to a new opportunity that's presented to you, what we're going to talk about today is, if I could do it all over again, I would have done these things first before saying yes. Not don't say yes. It's don't say yes today. Yeah. Let's pick a time and milestones to where you can say yes to that opportunity. So that's what we're talking about today. With that being said, we have done expansion multiple times,
Yep.
right? We had a service department, right? We split our company into turns between tenants and then general contracting, kind of homeowner additions, larger scale work. And then we decided to add a third expansion onto the service department. And that was running service calls, doing that sort of thing.
Small little one-off, a guy out in a truck running 6, 7, 8, 10 properties a
Yep.
day, going to screw in light bulbs, doorknobs, and that type of
That's
stuff.
right. It's to service our property managers to where we could do everything for them, and we realized we can't be everything to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're not going to go deep into why all of that didn't work, because I think we've done that on other podcasts. But the main thing about that is we stepped back and looked at the numbers and said, hey, this isn't working.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that expansion went pretty well.
Yeah.
We came to a spot where like we have to be doing
Well-
10,000 jobs a month for this to financially make sense.
Well, and honestly, I think we did a lot of things right there, but one of the things that we didn't do is we did not set up a structure of pay for the person who was running that. We had a person that was in charge of kind of the management and distribution of when a job came in. He managed it, got it dispatched out, and all the different stuff. The guy was a guru.
Yeah.
He was incredible at it. I could have never done what he did. He was very, very good at it. He was working his tail off, but it was making no money.
Yeah.
And so he was working all of these hours, putting in all of this time and effort, and he would come to me and say, hey, I want a raise. And I was like, I don't know how to give you more money because there is no money.
Yeah. We had something like 50% of our company resources between trucks, employees going towards that side,
And it was doing $30,000 a month.
and we were profiting $3,000 to $5,000 a month off that, and that was if everything ran smooth.
Yeah.
And so we're like 50% of the company, and we got $3,000 a month in profits.
Not to mention we've got billboard company vehicles out there. We've got employees driving around,
Getting in accidents,
running
hurting
ladders
themselves.
and saws. We thought it was a really, really great idea on the front end, and it didn't work.
Yeah, there's two other expansions we'll talk about before we get started. One being we were running. Jared was head of turns for us, doing all the turn side of the company. James, who's now our general manager, was head of renovations for us. That was doing all of our GC, straight to homeowner, larger scale stuff.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of general manager of the company. And so you both were running your divisions pretty well. And so there was space. And we'll talk about this, this is kind of item number 3 that you want to check in. But we had space for me to go and start looking at expansion. That part was fine. What was not fine was that this is where entrepreneurs get stuck in the blinders on their eyes, right? I say, hey, what we're doing as a company, we had $50,000 to $60,000 a month we were giving to our HVAC subcontractor.
Correct.
We had a vendor that we were doing $50,000 to $60,000 a month in just HVAC work for all of our jobs. All of our turns had servicing at minimum, sometimes changing the units. Our homeowner division had building new houses, doing additions, adding HVAC. So we had a good amount of work. So we looked at the numbers and said, hey,
That's $500,000 a year.
yeah, if I literally just hire an HVAC guy on staff, that could be the beginning of that arm. And now we've got, $600,000 a year overnight of revenue that we're keeping and we'll make. So
And you had just happened to, I forget exactly why, but you had met somebody that they were in a family business, HVAC company. He had all the knowledge and stuff, was looking to branch out on his own and wanted to come down to Atlanta, and it was like, hey, this is a no-brainer.
yeah, we jumped at the opportunity too quickly. And we'll talk, this might be better to talk about afterwards, but we didn't lay out some key things when thinking through it.
Yeah.
I was blinded. This is where the blinders come on of we've got $600,000 of work today annually for this company. Check. I've got a guy that could start doing the work tomorrow. Check. Let's run it. What could go wrong, right? And so
Well, and there was also, and it's not going to take any of my time.
no, it's
The guy's doing it. I'm going to help him 1 or 2 hours a week, and then I'm good.
I'm going to implement our processes into the HVAC world, and we're good to go.
Yeah.
And little did I know that it wasn't a partnership with bringing this guy in. It was becoming a babysitting effort on my part. I was hiring someone because they had the skills of running jobs, but they had no business or managerial skills or growth skills or anything else like that. So most of what we were doing in that division was me running it and managing it. And all of a sudden, I'm running an HVAC company, and I've never done that before.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't talk to the customers because I didn't have the knowledge.
Yeah.
He couldn't run anything and wrap his head around how to run a business. And it was this little arm. And so all of a sudden, our other two healthy divisions were using this one trade, or HVAC side, and all of our clients were getting unhappy. And so now, not only am I babysitting an HVAC tech that's on staff with us, I'm also playing a middleman of counseling between the project manager who was working for Jared and my little pet venture off into HVAC world. So the project manager didn't want to complain because, well, that's Clark's project. And so there's this like tension within the company of, do we have to use, like, can we use a different HVAC company because these guys suck? Right. And so it was this whole like, who do we use? And like, that's our company. And they told us we have to use them for HVAC, but they suck and our clients aren't happy. And so it made our entire product worse by bringing it on. And I didn't see that coming. I did not see that it was, this will work. We got all this money. What wouldn't work with this?
And that's where, me on the back end, I'm always kind of the negative Nancy when it comes to that stuff. I'm always like, no, what about this? What about this? This isn't. And at the time it was like, no, this is a no brainer, right? This, and this add up to, this is going to be simple. Yeah. Right. And I was like, and this was early on, and I wasn't as, skilled in being able to articulate to you like, no, that's a dumb idea, which is basically how you want me to say it. Right. And we ran down the road, it got to that place. And then it was like, okay, we're so far into this thing. We got to figure out how to pump blood into it. And, ran down the road, whatever. And so the problem is, and that's one of the kind of, negatives with an entrepreneur is they see this thing, especially an entrepreneur who's an 8, who's kind of bull in a china shop to the direction, right? Is like, I see that, I know the opportunity, I'm going after it, we'll figure out all the stuff along the way. Right? And the figuring out all the stuff is what we figured out is that it was causing a deficit in the thing that was paying the bills. Right? The thing that was functioning and working really well is now not functioning as well, not making as much money. And at that point, we started going into debt to you because you had money that was owed to you, and you're like, well, crap, we got to get it back on track. So it was like, it was a trickle effect of all the different stuff. That's right. And at the time, the concept was a great concept. But things were not set into place where it was the right time. Correct.
And we'll talk about that next. The last one, expansion that we'll kind of use as an example is Jared and I were in the construction company. I was the GM. He was the head of his department. And when we got to a spot that we decided to step out and start ProStruct 360 and ProStruct Alliance, we'd built this off where we had project managers coming in to work for us. They're like, where did you get this? Like, this is awesome. I wish my old company had this. And we're like, well, we built it. They're like, no, And so we were getting that positive feedback. And we're like, let's spin this off into its own product as a software, but also let's wrap around and show, instead of, because we were talking about franchising, right? That was kind of the original thought of ProStruct was, let's franchise and have our GC company all over the nation teach people these processes. But then we're like, hey, why put the risk in it? Let's help people do it in their business and make something for helping them, right? And so we kind of laid it out, and I think we did a really good job in hindsight figuring out directionally where we wanted to go. We had interest in investors, and we ended up not taking money, which is so happy we didn't. Because we would have invested it all in the wrong direction, and we've pivoted 4 times since we launched that 3-4 years ago.
Lord help us, we'd have been in some trouble.
But that being said, on this side of it, now that it's been officially 2.5 years since I've been out of the construction company, there's stuff that today I'm looking back saying, I wish we would have done differently. I wish that would have been different. I wish I would have set that in place. And so I am still, to today, Jared and I both are not geniuses, gurus in the construction world. We have just done it wrong a lot. And so that's what we're talking about today is even a successful venture like we've done with ProStruct, I would have done it differently, and we'd be so far ahead right now if we would have done it differently.
Well, and I think to our credit, where all of this stuff has come from, the entire system and program, is that we made all of those mistakes, but had the wisdom to look back and learn from past mistakes, right? And say, I don't want to make that mistake again. So, and it wasn't like, well, I'm just going to try not to do it again, right? It was like, no, I need to create systems so that doesn't happen again, right? And so we did that over and over and over and over, and that, because some of these things then we fell into just naturally. It was, we thought we were making the right decision. We hired a guy that at the time it seemed like the right decision. It made sense. We checked all the boxes. We had the conversations. We got into it. And then hindsight, we look back and we're like, wow, why the heck did we even do that?
Yeah, I wish someone would have told me these 3 things and it would have been so much better. And that's what we're trying to do to you, right?
That's exactly it. Yeah.
So let's dive into that. And I think one of the things with that we're diving into also is the self-awareness, and we say it every podcast, you got to be self-aware. But I think one of the key things that we had in what you were just talking about was I think I'm pretty good at not having pride in something, like not having the need for success to make me successful. And so when we get to a spot and it's like, this isn't working, I'm like, great, chop it. Right. I'd rather know that it's not working and fix it than try and pretend everyth's good because we're going to be successful. And so the self-awareness of why isn't this working? How do we change it? And how would it work better? If you can get to that spot, I don't care what's successful and not successful. I care about what we have going to create it into being successful. And so if I got to chop something off, the service department, like we just talked about, we were on a retreat, on one of these retreats that we did before we invited all the people we're coaching. And we said, hey, this doesn't make sense. Why are we wasting all this money? Let's chop it off. Let's do this. Let's switch this. We've fired some people. We moved jobs around. And it was a 2-hour decision because we looked at the numbers and we were like, reasonable. Let's look at ourselves.
I remember we were sitting in a hotel room, all of us, sitting in there, and we were like, wow. So if we dissolve this department, take our resources in there and make them project managers, which they are all capable of doing, we will, in the first month, make more money than this entire department made in a year.
Yes. Yep.
Done.
But again, it's the self-awareness and not self-hate, shame, beating myself up, or like, or blinders on because it just has to work. You can't have any of that stuff. You've got to be able to look at yourself every single step of the way of saying, why is or is not this working? And listen to outside voices that are more cautionary, that I'm not great at doing, but I'm trying my hardest, Jared. So
when is the right time? How do you know when the right time is to say yes?
Yes. So there are 3 things that we've narrowed down that your current company has to have in balance.
Yep.
And then we copy those 3 things as to how to launch the new venture, the new opportunity that you're chasing, whatever it is. These are the 3 things that you need to set up. And they're very similar. They're almost the same thing, but they're kind of a reflection of each other. So let's start with your current company. Jared, you're running a contracting company. You wanted to start a cabinet company because we do so many kitchen and bathrooms, and I could, just like the HVAC company, I could self-fund this entire thing without having to go do marketing. What is the first of the 3 things that you want your construction company set up with before saying yes to that opportunity?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I think I'm going to say a statement that I think everybody in this place has probably thought, and we said it just a second ago. I'm currently running my company, and I'm paying all this money to this vendor to do this thing. Cabinet company, dumpster company, whatever it is. Right. Yeah. I'm going to quit paying those people, and I'm going to I've got the assets. I've got a guy that I talked to who knows how to do carpentry, and he said he'd love to do this. It's going to be very easy. It's not going to take a lot of my time.
Yep.
Right. Wait, so you're going to start a brand new business out of nowhere and pay it no time?
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah. Reverse what you're saying.
Yeah. It's like, no. You need to, if you're going to do this, then you need to focus on it and give it all your time so that it will be successful.
Yep.
Right. And so It's just a thought that I had of like, it's going to take more time than you think. It's going to take more away from your current company. And so if you don't work to ensure that your company that is currently paying your bills, putting food on your tables, is sustained, when you need to avert your eyes over here, you're going to be in trouble. So that's what these three things are to kind of create some standards of, if these three things are in place, I can feel comfortable to avert my eyes this direction, and it's still going to be okay.
I love that, what you just said too, because with that HVAC company, my mentality is like, it will take barely any of my time, and we're going to be doing $600,000 a year day one.
Mm-hmm.
And now, if I think about it as an entity, as an investor into an HVAC company that has nothing to do with our construction company, and the person who's founding it and is going to be running it tells me, as the investor of this company, hey, I'm going to spend minimal time on that.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, no.
Makes no sense at all. Right.
I don't want you to start this company if you're going to spend minimal time.
Yeah.
What you need to be saying, what Jared just said, and I'm doubling down on, is if I'm going to start that HVAC company, I have built 40 hours a week that I can spend on that.
Correct.
And not affect my original company,
That's exactly
my main
it.
company.
That's exactly
right. So
it.
if you're like, it won't take any time, so I can find 5 hours a week to do that. That's not a company.
No.
That is a money pit waiting to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's great.
And the thing is like, on the outside looking in at the opportunity, the feeling is, I can give it what it needs, and it's not going to take a lot.
Yep.
But just like our current business, if you don't organize your time by time management, everyone else is going to take your time from you. It's going to take more time than you think. And so you're going to start a brand new business. It's going to take more time than you think.
Yep.
So give it what it needs, but set yourself up to be able to do that without sacrificing the thing that's paying your bills. And that's where these three things come in.
Yep.
The first of which is finances.
Yep.
I think when it comes to finances, the thing that I would say is, how long do I think, just like a hire, how long do I think it's going to take to get this new venture up and running where it's generating its own, it's sustaining a paycheck, right? It's breaking even. Is it going to be, really, I think I've got the work. I need to bring a guy in, train him on the systems, get him up and running. I could probably have it up and running in about 60 days, 90 days, or maybe it's 6 months, whatever it is. I think that a good practice when it comes to finances is that you've got that amount of money in operating money for your other company to be able to sustain for 6 months without you being able to, right? If you turning your eyes this direction causes the company to completely tank and not be able to earn money for whatever reason, you have 3 to 6 months worth of reserves where it's not going to tank, and all of a sudden this doesn't work, and everybody's out of a job.
Yeah.
Right.
And
I think that's just kind of a best practice idea of an amount of, let's put it this way. I have a reserve of fuel in a savings account to run this car for 6 months.
Yeah.
Because it's going to take me 3 to 6 months to get this one up and running. And then I can come back and start working to fill that tank again if I need it. If I don't need it, right, then fine, I'm better off. But if I did need it, it's there.
Yeah.
Right.
I think when we talk finances, that I'm looking up and really kind of we're looking at the current in place company as well as the new company. We're kind of doing it side by side.
Right.
There's 3 things I'm looking at for finances. One, what you just said.
Yeah.
Runway to burn.
Reserves. Exactly.
The reserves.
Yeah.
That's number one. Mm-hmm. Number 2, overhead costs of this new company. Mm-hmm. So if I am starting a HVAC company, I've got to buy those units up front and pay for them, or get some sort of line of credit with the supply house before I get paid by the customer. I can pay them. Right. I've got $600,000 of work, or let's say we had $50,000 a month of work. Mm-hmm. Well, that's $25,000 month one that I got to spend before I collect that money. Right. So where is that money coming from? Have I set up those lines of credit? Do I have the cash in the background? If you're doing a cabinet company, you got to buy a lot of wood. Mm-hmm. Right. If you're doing a dumpster company, I've got to buy the dumpsters. I've got to store the dumpsters. Yep. What happens when they're not on job sites? Well, I'll just move them site to site. Well, what happens when you don't have a site to put them on? Yep. Where are you going to put it? Where are you going to pay? Like all of those hidden costs and overhead costs that come with it, and cash flow needed inside. So that's the number 2 finances. And number 3 finances, and it's kind of goes with the first one, but I view it a little differently. If my current company, like for us, when we started ProStruct, when we moved over to ProStruct, we moved your payroll to the new company,
Right.
and we're funding it through the coaching we were doing.
Right.
Me, as the owner of the construction company, and as the owner of this ProStruct, the new company, we got to a spot where we could pay James to become the GM to take my spot, keep paying me a paycheck,
Right.
and I could contribute zero in terms of creating money day in, day out for the company.
Correct.
So could we afford to pay me a paycheck that I can keep taking and not be working there 40 hours a week?
Correct.
That's the other financial side. Because on top of that, we also needed runway for all the other expenses, right? You coming over, your paycheck wasn't covered for the first large number of months, right? And so how do we transition that, and how do I keep sucking out of the bucket from my company number one without harming it?
Yeah.
But also, I can still divert my attention to company number two, even though it's not paying me.
Yeah, and maybe there's a thought of, we were talking about the first thing that I said, the reserves, right?
Yeah.
Having enough fuel for this company to be running while I'm over here doing this thing, and at minimum, even if it's not, let's say that you have $50,000 worth of operating cost every single month, right? And I need 6 months of that, so I need $250,000, right? Maybe it's not that. Maybe it is at minimum, I need to have the amount of money that it is going to cover your paycheck, right? I need to still be getting paid, but I'm not going to be putting in any work to help this side. So, it's just having the reserve to cover the cost. Do you have that kind of money?
On the retreat we covered, and we're not going to dive in today because we don't have the time, space, or capacity, but we covered how to pay yourself as an owner.
Right.
And divided out guaranteed payment / pay for the actual work I'm doing and owner distributions.
Right.
Right. And so when you start breaking down your numbers, your company has to be healthy enough that you can live off the owner distributions, not the money that's paying you to run the company.
To execute a job.
And so
right.
when you hire the general manager to come in to run the company, you're giving them your guaranteed payments, quote unquote, whatever money you're getting paid for doing the work. And can I continue living off my owner distributions?
Right.
And so we got to a spot where we could, to where I could live off the distributions from the construction company and still hire James to take my role.
Right.
Now, our profitability dropped that month, and that was part of the plan, but that was to launch this thing.
Right.
Because the profits now were getting paid as owner distributions to me, but we weren't going backwards or losing money when that happened. So again, that's a great point in terms of that is different than the runway of money you need for just in case money.
Well, and this is showing behind the curtain a little bit, but the reality is that we were in a good spot to be able to do that, for the GC company to be able to pay your paycheck, so that we didn't have to be burdened on this side of the company with it yet, as we were kind of growing and whatever. And we had a runway of when that was going to be, right? We were going to get to this point. It was going to take X amount of time, and it's taken double that.
Yeah.
Right? There was no way for us to know that. We did our best guess at what we thought it would take to be able to generate enough to start moving your paycheck over this direction. And we had set the GC company up to sustain your paycheck for a certain period of time. But then all of a sudden it starts becoming a burden, because you're 100% focused over here and not giving much over here, right? And so we're learning that right now, is that we did the best that we could do to estimate how long we thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
It's just taken way longer.
Yeah.
And we're getting there, and we're learning from that process, just like we've done with everything else in the past.
Yeah.
But that's just, we did the best that we could do to set ourselves up financially, and sometimes it's like, wow, it's taken way longer.
Well, and that's why 2.5 years ago we left to launch a software / coaching company.
Yeah.
And for the last 2.5 years we've been coaching.
Correct.
And we are just now launching the software.
Yeah.
And again, I feel like we know a ton about construction, business world, how to do this, how to run a software, what you need out of software. We knew all that.
Yeah.
The one thing we didn't know was how to do development of software. Right? We've just worked with one guy, and so that was the learning curve. That's why we're 2.5 years in, just launching the software, because It's different to have your own software versus selling a software that others are using, right? And we had to
All of you
rebuild it.
entrepreneurs out there that are thinking about starting your own software,
You can come buy ours.
it's
No,
way
it's a
more
lot.
difficult
It
than you
is.
think.
It was the most expensive decision that I didn't know I was making in my life, but it's worth it at this point. But at the same time, you're right. Like, it took a lot longer to get to a profitable spot than we expected, and so we've had to maneuver around that financially because I was supposed to be off this payroll, it's coming onto this one, and all that stuff. So I think that's great.
Yeah. All right, moving on to the next one.
So that's finances. Number 2, systems and processes.
Yeah,
So
the way
compare the current ones. Let's talk about your current company first, and then we'll talk about the new company.
So the way that I look at this is the answer to if you can check this box, you're going down the road of being able to say yes to whatever this venture is. So systems and processes. The way that I gauge this, am I cranking the wheel in my company, right? Am I the one that if I stop and go to the beach, I'm constantly getting calls.
Yeah.
I'm constantly in charge. They're having to ask questions from me and all that stuff. If the answer is yes to that, you cannot check that box.
Yeah.
The goal is for you to say yes to a new venture and opportunity. You have to be at barely needed in that company, right? You've set the systems up and the people to run those systems up well enough that you can step away and things are great. It may not be growing. It may not be, throwing the sail up and really thriving and increasing, but it will sustain on its own without you for a long period of time and be fine.
Here's the difference. If you are needed for anything reactive, you're not ready.
Correct. That's a great point.
When I stepped out of the construction company, I still did stuff with them and for them. It was accountability, and it should have been and combined accountability with proactivity.
That's
so
right.
I was part of the marketing. I was like, hey, it'd be great to why don't we start churning up more? Yeah, let me be a part of that. But I could put it off for a week if I needed to work on the company number 2.
Right.
And so anything reactive was taken care of by our GM and by the people in the company through the processes that we had in place, through our core values where they were making decisions the way that I want the decisions to be made, to where I'm not being pulled in. So at that point, I could have left and gone to a beach and sat on my butt and had twice a month 1 hour meeting with my GM. But instead, I went this way and started spending money on starting a new company.
That's right.
But it was all the reactive decisions were 100% covered by the people from our office manager our GM to our heads of construction.
That's a great point. I like that. That makes a lot of sense. That's checkbox number 2.
Yeah.
If you've got stabilized finances and your company is at a place where you're not having to deal with reactive stuff, then you move on to the third one, pipeline.
Yep.
Does your current business have stability?
Yeah.
Right? Does it have a road in front of it or a way that road is being laid, right? I've got new work coming in from this pipeline. I've got these different systems, whether it's marketing, whether it's word of mouth, but it is pretty naturally coming in. There's plenty of road in front of it that I'm not going to need to get in and think at a 30,000 foot view, where do I need to move this? How do I need, because as the CEO, the owner of the company, that's kind of your job. 30,000 foot view, looking at it, looking ahead down the road, and what maneuvers do we need to make sure that we've got enough?
Pipeline stability also, those are two separate things and the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Pipeline stability is we have part of our processes, a faucet that we can turn on and off when it comes to marketing, getting new clients, and growing the company.
Yeah.
And so instead of reactively, oh crap, we need jobs next week. Instead, it is all right, so let's look at the next 3 months. Okay, we're kind of slow 2 months from now. Let's start looking at running some more ads on doing this. Let's start proactively doing this to where we have a stable pipeline and a way to turn the faucet on and off, and that works, that's proven, that we know how to do. And we run it through the marketing side or we do promotions for our old clients and a bunch of other things that we do. But we have a stability to our pipeline to where they're not going to call me in 3 weeks and say, we're out of jobs, Clark. What do we do now?
Yeah,
right.
That's right.
And again, that's kind of part of the process. But the number 3 we have is a stable pipeline, a stability within growing the growth side. Even if I'm not doubling in size,
correct,
we need to continue the growth forward for my current employees to have a purpose here in this company of growth and moving on to the next level. combine that, and this is kind of an overarching on all three of those, but accountability. I think that's somewhere that I am self-admittedly, I'm bad at holding people accountable because I confuse trust with I don't need to keep them accountable.
Right.
And those are two separate things. And I think that's one spot, looking in hindsight on all of the ventures I've done, that I've said, I trust him. Why should I have to follow up on him?
Right.
He knows how to do it, and I trust him. What's there to follow up on?
Yeah.
And so my every other week meetings turned to once a month, turned to once a quarter. And then we've looked back at times in this past year of like, holy crap, what's going on? How did it get this way? What's happened? Oh, why are y'all doing it this way?
Right.
Okay, I need to get reinvolved. Right. And so that sort of stuff starts happening because there was not and accountability is not a negative thing. It feels like such a negative thing. But in a company our size with the level that we're at, it's I am the visionary keeping my eyes at 30,000 feet, and I can start waving flags before you as the manager can even see it.
That's right.
Right. And so that's the accountability of like, hey, you said we're going to do it this way. Why'd you switch? Okay, well, what about this? This is where we're headed now, and that's not going to work this way. And that's the support that I'm building in my top employees.
Yeah.
The support and trust is, hey, let me get another set of eyes on that. Let me help you think through that. And for me, it was a waste of time because it was working well.
Yeah.
So why am I going to waste an hour of my time? That's not forward progress. I'm just checking in on old progress.
And what's interesting is just like anything else in business, everything flows from the top down.
Yeah.
Right. So I've got a lack of accountability, not because I thought, oh, I'm not going to hold people accountable. It's like, everything's fine.
Yeah.
Right. And then all of a sudden you look in and the managers that you would have been holding accountable aren't holding the people underneath of them accountable.
Yeah.
Because, they start doing it the same way.
Yeah.
Right. It's just natural. That's human nature. That's just going to happen that way.
Going down that hill or going down the line of people, everyone in the company is trustworthy.
Yes.
It's not a matter of I don't trust them.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of I need to keep tabs on them. I need to make sure that it is I need to support and build them up and help them have a second set of eyes that's not emotionally attached to what they're doing.
That's
right.
right.
Now.
That's
The
right.
decisions you're making, and we're not going to get into all of them, but there was one large decision made January this year that I wasn't a part of that has really affected the company.
Yeah.
And again, I gave them the autonomy to make those decisions, but if I was giving accountability, I would have said, wait, time out, pause.
Wait a minute. Right.
What about this? What about this? What about this?
Yeah.
So again, I mean, that's total transparency.
Yeah.
As good as I can coach other people, I have sometimes failed in my own kitchen.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so that's something that we've changed and have adjusted. But that again, self-awareness of what am I doing wrong and how can I get better
So
at it.
all that to be said, when you are at the point where you've been able to check these three boxes, right?
My finances are set up here. I can step out and not hurt the company and still take some money out of it.
You've got the pipeline and stability.
The systems are in place, pipeline stability.
The word there is set up your system for accountability.
Yep.
Just because you are going to be able to avert your eyes this direction doesn't mean that you need to forget about the other one.
Yep.
It still needs you to check in. And you still need to check in. You need to know on a high level what's going on.
Yep.
What's happening? Because again, like you said, because of your past experience, you can see things clearly of what's coming that other people can't.
Yeah.
Right. And so even a once a month meeting of like, hey, tell me what's been going on this week. How are things going? What's going on with the clients? Is there anything that I need to know about? Blah, 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 blah. How's the pipeline? How's the money?
Yeah.
How's it? Right. You're checking in on those things with the existing company.
Yeah.
On a regular basis, right? It doesn't need to be every week. It can be, but.
Well, it starts out for sure.
Yes.
But I think you're right. And part of that too is I needed a job description written for me in that old company,
sure,
in the first company, because that way I've got achievables now. Like I need to check in with him on this, and this is what we talked about then.
Right.
We do that for our PAL meetings with our PMs, right? Every Friday we're going to run through your jobs and look at this stuff. And
That's
so
right.
more that I implement that, the better I am at accountability, because it's not just, hey man, how are you doing?
Accountable to and for what?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And so I agree. Creating whatever that system of accountability is going to be.
Yeah.
Right.
So
moving on.
That's all set up in our current company number one. We're going to start the company number two, our new venture, our arm of the company, our new builds that we're going to get started, whatever it is.
Yeah.
We're checking those three same boxes, but differently. We already talked about the finance piece, about how to fund it, how to watch out for cash flow. We already covered that. So that's number one, finances in the new company.
Yeah. Yeah.
Number two, I am setting up a, like we said, HVAC company, cabinet company, whatever it is. I am going to say, okay, my processes and procedures are well written in my construction company. We've got a 10-step project management process from first contact to final invoice that we have every single step put down on paper of how it runs.
Yeah.
The first thing we did to start a new company, I pulled those out and say, okay, what here is the same? For our HVAC company, it was similar, but there was more service calls.
There
There's
were
a
some
lot
variations,
more on-site
right?
stuff. There's on-site quoted. You're not doing desk estimates and large quotes, but the individuals. There's a whole lot. So we took those 10 steps and rewrote them for processes and procedures for this new company. Now, for ProStruct, when we spun off that, it is a different animal.
Yeah.
So we threw it out and we have rewritten what is we don't have project management, but our processes in terms of software development, in terms of what Jared's doing, what I'm doing, what Emery's doing, what all of our team is doing.
Well, I mean, clarity on that is like, where we're going is we're going to need support staff. We're going to need customer service. We're going to need salespeople. Like that's all happening. You and I are doing all of that.
Yes.
Right. So what is that process? What does that phone call look like? How do I, put them in our system? All of those things we're working to create the 10 steps of our company now.
Yeah. So I think we've got those in place, but we're always tinkering with what's the process. And what I think we did really well in this is we defined the work that we're each doing and made sure we didn't cross lines in it.
Right.
Where I think previous launches we've done is like, just do it this, like just run it and we'll figure it out.
And also gave each other permission to be like, hey, get out of my kitchen.
Yeah.
This is my job.
Now we do that.
Yeah.
But previous, on the failed ventures that we've done, and not even failed, but mistakes that we've made is ready, fire, aim. Let's go. We've got all this HVAC. Let's just run it. We'll figure out the process when we get there. With what we did in ProStruct is, all right, Jared, you're this. You're really good at coaching. You're really good at people and looking and assessing their
Customer
companies.
service, taking care of people.
I'm good at this. I've really done most of the software layout and production side of that. With the dev team, I meet with them multiple times a week. You're not in those meetings because you're doing this stuff. So we've really written out around our strengths.
Who does what?
Yes.
Right.
And we brought in Emery, who's our director of marketing, who's killer at that. And so he does more than marketing, right?
Yeah.
We all wear a lot of hats. You're doing demos sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Because we got to all wear the hats, but at the same time, you doing a demo because it needs to get done and there's no one to do it is different hat that you're wearing than when you're looking at our finances and managing our money. You pay all the bills, right? And so you've got two different hats and you're building these jobs around each hat to where we're going to be hiring a demo person to replace you on whatever that is and start building up more of a bullpen of people that are doing the software demos and trainings and onboardings. And so what are we doing? So we're defining our job roles in each of those roles. Yeah. But we have these processes and these systems in place prior to starting. And when we're changing things, pause. How is that going to change? Let's run it by me. Let me run my stuff by you. Let's shoot holes in it, and then let's try it.
Well, and some clarity on that. I think I've said this probably on a couple different podcasts. If you have nothing, you have nothing to tinker with, right? If you have something, anything written down as far as a process, best guess, right? You then implement it and you have something to work on, to tinker with, to make it better, right? So there's that place of like, I haven't even started this company. I don't know what it's going to need, right? Well, okay. What's the best guess of things that we're going to need to do? So all that to say is, as you're going down this road, work to create systems and processes of how things are going to flow, different job descriptions and whatnot. So now you've understood the finances, systems and processes, and then what's the pipeline? How am I going to get work? How am I going to bring work into this business? Now that I understand the finances, know what's needed, I know the systems and processes that I'm going to put into place, how am I going to feed it?
This is a really hard one too, where a lot of you guys listen to this that are starting side businesses that are support businesses for your current business, just like my HVAC company. This is a spot to where it's easy to rest on your laurels. It is, hey, we've got $600,000 a year coming in from HVAC, and that quickly became an on-staff HVAC tech, where it wasn't its own company. It was our tech servicing our company, showing up to the Friday meetings to sit with our PMs, and it was an internal service tech. And so I fought hard to build a pipeline to get a growth plan outside of servicing our company. Because until we have that, it's not its own company.
Correct.
It is a service tech on site. So
Correct.
if you're starting a dumpster company, if you're just servicing your own company with dumpsters, you're not starting a dumpster company, right? You've just got an on-staff tech that's doing dumpsters for you, who's running them around or whatever it is. Same with cabinets, same with all these other vendors. Now, if you swing into a different, like we did with ProStruct, it's a little bit easier because it's not self-serving. But most guys starting companies outside of flipping homes or something like that in this industry are doing support companies, a paint company, different things that
Cabinet company, whatever.
internal support where I'm hiring the labor on staff as opposed to just being a project management company. So with that being said, the growth plan needs to happen. Cannot be, well, we do $600,000 a year in HVAC, so we're just going to do that. That's not a growth plan.
No.
That is great, we can hire someone on staff. To start a separate company, this is how we're going to attack, like for our HVAC company, this is how we attack the realtor world, the property management world. This is how we advertise to them, and this is how we're going to grow the company. And I have a 6-month plan to be a successful company, even if my GC company fires us.
Yeah. Well, and I think some clarity or just a thought that I have on that is I think that it's fine. The whole concept of the idea came from I'm paying this money out of my GC company anyways.
Yes.
Why don't I create a company that I can pay that company, right? Yep. I have full control over the customer service. I know that I'm going to get service and I'm not going to be screwed anymore and wait for timelines and all this stuff. And I can get a better price and I'm going to make money on both ends, right? It's a logical thought. So that being said, I think it's fine to build the company and get it on its feet
For sure.
by servicing you. Get that money coming in the door, but have a plan to expand to the real estate companies, to this company, to whatever it is. Like, don't stop at just, like you said, sitting on your laurels. It becomes easy.
Yes.
Right? Where it's like, oh, well, it's making this money, right? Expand out where it actually becomes a real standalone business.
Well, and the growth plan is, this is how we're going to start growing. But you're exactly right. The beauty of us servicing internally as our first and only customer for the first 3, 4, 5 months was that we worked out the kinks on the guys that I could say sorry to.
Correct.
Every person that I screwed, I paid a paycheck to.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. And so it's like, at least I got that. They're not going to go on Google and give me a bad review because it's my own guys. Now it got bad to the point that our customers were being affected, and that's different.
Yeah.
But the beauty of doing it was that I can internally work out those kinks to where if we're screwing stuff up, I've got direct feedback from the guy sitting in the office across from me that says, hey guys, your communication's off, right? And so great, we can fix that. Where if you're going out day one trying to sell the realtor world, they're not giving you that feedback. They're just not calling you again.
Yeah.
Right. And so I totally, you need to start with servicing your own, but the growth plan is a plan on how we're going to grow and not say, cool, check the box, we got our guy running, because then it's not a separate company. Right. You're wasting your time setting up that.
It doesn't matter if you went and got a separate tax ID number.
Yeah.
It's like
a growth plan to become its own thing.
That's right. Well, and I think, any one of the entrepreneurs that, if you do it in this direction, the way that we're spelling this out, where you've set yourself up to be able to give this thing 100% of your attention, I think it's naturally going to go that way anyways. It's not going to, like, you would have never stopped if you were not needed in both simultaneously, but you were set up where you could completely disregard the GC company and only focus on HVAC. You would have never stopped at just servicing the GC company. Correct. Right? Because you've got the time to work on the systems, get that all done, and then you've got another 30 hours.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, like, you would have naturally gone that direction, but it was because you only thought it was going to be 4 hours a week, and it was constantly pulling at you, and it felt like this, right? And so that's why it's like, if you can check those first 3 boxes, that gives you the ability to give it 100% of your time, and all of these things are going to end up working themselves out, right? Because you've got the space.
We do a Fast Track to Success event quarterly about here in Atlanta that we invite people to. That if you're on our mailing list, you'll get invited to it, and it's kind of if you're not ready for coaching, but you want kind of a crash course in everything we teach. It's a very inexpensive way to get that, and really kind of go on your own or use that as kind of a launching point into coaching. Either way, we have so many aha moments during that first day in the crash course to where we go through an org chart.
Yep.
And we show this is you as a one-man show, and here's every single hire you're going to make along the way. Now, this is the perfect ideal growth of a company.
Yeah.
And it's not always going to happen this way, but this hire then, this hire then, this is how much money
Every
you need then.
strategic step, yeah.
And it grows to a spot to where this is where I can pull out and retire, and this is how we start a second division.
Mm-hmm.
This is your first hire. This is how you set it up. And so we walk you through, if I could do it and have it written out perfectly, this is how it's done.
Yeah.
And so that's one of those aha moments like, okay, so I need that person before I go this way.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want that, hit us up. Go to our website. I don't know if we have any fast tracks on the books, but I think we have one in a couple months coming up.
We're going to process through that and get it out
I think
there,
it's on our website. But either way, go on and sign up. Send us a contact if you want to come to one of those events. We can work through some of that with you and kind of give you our 2 cents. If you want to hop on a Zoom with Jared or me, you can do that this week.
Yeah.
Go onto our website. We'd love to chat with you if you have questions.
They'll be better off with me. But
you should sign up with me. Jared's nicer, but I'm smart. No,
yeah, that's right.
Not true.
That's right.
The truth of it is, though, if you want to talk with us, we're available for you, and we don't charge for those Zooms. If you want to now, if you want to talk once a week, we're going to talk about doing coaching with us. But we love helping guys. Our long-term goal is to be a supporter of you, and our mentality is if we can give free stuff away, like this podcast and doing one-off Zooms to help people out, they're going to be long-term partners with us.
Yep.
They might want to get on the software at some point. They might come back for coaching in 2 years. We want to put good out there, and we know that it's going to do good for our company. So don't feel like you're abusing us. We'd love to chat with you. Send us an email. Also, if you have any podcast ideas, send those over. We'd love to hear from you. We're always looking for fun things to talk about on the podcast, so we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
If you have any other questions, let us know. ProStruct360.com. ProStruct360.com is the website. Love to hear from you guys. We'll talk to you next week.
See ya.
All right, bye.